money to double, if you're compounding it at a certain rate, there is a simple formula for it. 72 divided by the growth rate gives you the number of years in which the money will double. Okay, so that means 72 divided by 7% divided by 7 is roughly 10 years. So that means it will take 10 years for the money to double if you're getting 7% every year, right? If you're getting 36% every year, it's going to take 2 years for you to double your money. So just divide 72 by the growth rate, you get the years, or you divide 72 by the number of years and you will get the desired growth rate. Okay, so assume that the treasury, the head of treasury for Indians delivers a 7% return every year. So they will double the money in 10 years. In 100 years, how many doubles will they have? They will have 10 doubles. And 10 doubles takes us to roughly 1,000. It's little over 1,000, 1,024 or something. So let's, for simple math, assume it's 1,000. So over 100-year period, that $24 will become 1,000 times. So let's fast forward to 1730. The $24 have now become $24,000. Okay, let's fast forward another 100 years to 1830. Those $24,000 will now become $24 million. By 1930, those $24 million will become $24 billion. And by 2030, it will become $24 trillion. Just compounding that money at 7% per annum. Okay. Now, the total wealth of all the households in the US is roughly 150-160 trillion dollars. So, island of Manhattan it's not worth $24 trillion in today's date. So actually, Indians got a better deal had they invested the proceeds from that sale into anything that yielded 7% per annum. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, again, the key lesson from this is it's not the small amount or a seemingly small amount, but the length of the runway. We're talking about 400 years. And that 400 years can do unimaginable things to small amount that our human brain just cannot fathom. Even smart people like you who would pick one penny doubling every day over $1 million, we also fail to appreciate what $24 can become over 400 years. Okay, so as I said at the beginning of this video or this session, you have a long runway ahead of you. Do not miss out on that long runway. Any amount of money you start to save and invest at this time, by the end of your career, as you go into the end of your lifespan, after 60-70 years, that would have done wonders to you and compounded for you, and that'll just help you to be in a much better financial state than most of the Americans are. And this is exactly what Ronald Read who died as a millionaire did. He was actually a janitor. He worked as a janitor most of his life. He also worked as a gas station attendant. He was a man with very limited needs and desires. He would go work, and then one of the things that gave him happiness was chopping wood. That was his hobby. You know, he did not need expensive things in life to be happy. He would work, live frugally, and invest his proceeds into great stocks, into just what his 401k, or whatever way he had identified. And people were surprised that when he died, he left $8 million, and he actually donated that money. He was covered on news media. You can go and look up Ronald Read, and you will see a wiki page on him. You'll get all the details. But what's the lesson? What can we learn from his life? He had a very, very ordinary income. He did not hit it out of the park in terms of his career, in terms of doing really, really well, in corporate life or anything like that, right? uh, but I think he exploited long-term compounding and created extraordinary wealth. He also understood that happiness is not, um, it doesn't come just from money. So if you can be happy with spending less money, that means you have more money that you can save and let compounding work for you. On the left here, you'll see, there are two images. On the left one is a bamboo shoot, right, which has just come out of the ground. And one of the great things about bamboo shoot is that if you plant a bamboo seed, for the first 4 or 5 years, you keep watering it, watering it, and watering it. You don't see anything, right? And suddenly, one of the days, you will see a small shoot out of the ground, right? And in the next 6, 7 weeks, it will grow very, very fast. And we're talking about Chinese bamboo here. It grows to 90 feet in 6 weeks, right? So very, very fast growth once it comes out of the ground, right? But it tests your patience when it's still a seed inside the ground. You still have to be patient. You have to keep watering it. So what can we learn from this? That initially, during the first few years, compounding is invisible. Nobody will know that you're compounding wealth. You will yourself feel that time, hey, is it really going to work? It's very, very small. But and we are going to look at compound interest tables. What it can do in the later part, in the later years, is just phenomenal. Okay, so the key is to stick with it, to be patient with it. Excuse me, let me grab some water. So just a quick time check, Pragya. I think we are at 11:50.
Yep.
I have a few more slides, and then we can open up for Q&A.
Okay. Yeah. Take your time. Sure.
So, I have these compound interest tables that I've created in Excel, and kind of I keep it with, I do active stock investments, and every time I buy a stock, I write down a quick rationale of why I bought it. And so there, I maintain an Excel where I keep all these things. And one of the things I keep in there is these compound interest tables. Because, as I said, however much I have read about compounding, I still need the help of these tables to appreciate what it can do. right? So I thought it'll be helpful to show you at different rates of return how much your wealth can multiply to, in a period of 5 year, 10 year, 15 year, and 20 year. And because you all are so young, you have so much of your life ahead of you. You really want to take advantage of time. So let's look at the 20-year window. You know, at 10%, your money can become 6 times, right? But at 20%, the money is not going to be 12 times. There is no linearity here. Instead of 6 times your money, at 20%, it'll be 32 times. Okay. And again, that's what you can see in this chart. The 10% is right here after 20 years, a little over half, or 6 times, as I said, and see the difference. The 20% one is 32 times, right? So, initially in the first few years, it's, very similar, nothing much to pick from. 10% in 5 years will be 1.5, 20% will be 2.1. That's like, okay, it's a rounding off error, right? It's not meaningful. But it becomes more than meaningful as time goes on. Okay? The key is consistency and long runway. So oftentimes it's not how fast you're growing your wealth, your money, it's how long you do it for, right? But not to say that growth rate does not matter, right? Let's look at what happens with higher numbers. So in this slide, you have 10% that goes to 6 times in 20 years. But if you're able to do it at 40%, which is very, very, very difficult to do, right? You can have a period of 1 or 2 years where you can achieve higher returns like 40%. But there aren't live examples of successful people who've done 40% for that longer time. I just know of one person, and I'll talk about it. But at 40%, you can grow your wealth by almost 600 times in 20 years. Whereas with 10%, it's only 6 times, and at 20%, it's only 32 times. So see the difference, that slightly higher growth rate over a long period can lead to unfathomable changes and, just unimaginable results. Okay. How many of you know Warren Buffett? Have you heard of him? Yeah, I think a lot of you have. So Warren Buffett has compounded his wealth by 19.9% for 65 years. So just think about it. He's considered to be the god of investing in the stock market. And the god of investing in stock market could only achieve 20% consistently over 65 years. So that's why I said 40%, 30%, numbers about 20% for us mere mortals is very, very difficult. So this was just to show you the difference compounding makes over a long period of time. But the key is the time period, right? Warren Buffett, has the wealth he has by compounding his wealth 20% over 65 years. Had he not given away his wealth to charity, he would be the richest person in the world. Much more, he would have had much more money than Elon Musk or anyone else. Just growing his money at 20% per annum. The only other person I know who is, compounded at a greater percentage, but not for as long as Warren Buffett, is Jim Simons. He compounded, I think, at 60% or something. It was a crazy number. But, not a lot of people know about him because the runway he had was much, much smaller than Warren Buffett. But again, he's an example, and people in the investing world still know him. But the key thing for you to take away is it's the length of the runway that matters, and then anything you can do to come from one row to another makes a difference, yes, but start early and stick with it. Okay. So with that, I think this is my last slide. Um, I wanted to recommend a few books for you guys if you're interested in these kind of things and these concepts. The first book I will recommend to you guys to read at your age is The Psychology of Money. Um, it talks about it, and it gives you real world examples on what money is all about, what mistakes people make, how can you be better off understanding money, what do you need to achieve financial independence. The example of Ronald Read I picked up from this book. The second book I will recommend is Poor Charlie's Almanac. And Charlie was the right hand man of Warren Buffett, very, very smart guy. And this book is all about he made 20 lectures to college students who were graduating. So the book is actually a accumulation of those 20 lectures, and he talks about world wisdom, life wisdom. So it's not just about investing and compounding, but it's about psychology, it's about lessons that you can learn from different disciplines and use that in business and in life. It's a must read book. um, you know I definitely, highly, highly recommend that you read Poor Charlie's Almanac. And the third book is, if you're really interested in investing and stocks, you should learn from Ben Graham. Ben Graham was a professor in Columbia Business School, and Warren Buffett attended Columbia just to learn from Ben Graham. Before Warren Buffett started doing all this, he read this book twice. So this book helps you understand how the market works and how you should think about market and not get phased by the ups and downs of the market. He coined the term that Mr. Market is a maniac depressive person who comes to your house every day and gives you a quote for your house. Sometimes when the maniac depressive market is very euphoric, they'll give you a very high quote. Other times when it's depressed, they'll give you a very low quote. And you don't need to get worried about how Mr. Market behaves. You have to take advantage of that. So great lessons in this book if you're interested in investing. Again, I highly recommend that. With that, thank you. I think we can take a 5-minute break and open it up for questions. Right?
Yep. Okay, that seems good. Thank you so much. That was really informative.
Okay, who gets the early bird prize? First question.
Yep. Okay. So everybody, Q&A session, and now's your chance. So you can start raising your hand and asking all the questions you have. Or if you want, I can start the session. Okay. So I can be the first one. And sir, so I want to ask you, what motivated you to pursue chemical engineering at IIT Delhi? And how did you prepare for the highly competitive exams, since everybody knows it's so hard to get in? And
So,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
what motivated me was, you can say, peer pressure, because uh, frankly, I did not, uh, throughout my childhood, I did not dream of becoming a chemical engineer. To be very frank with you, excuse me.
Yeah.
So it just happened because um, I prepared for the examination and prepared for the entrance exam, which was highly competitive. So everybody around me was doing it, and my dad actually challenged me to clear that exam. So I took that challenge. I cleared it, but when I had to pick the stream, it was just based on what I could get. What my rank was and what the demand and the supply for different streams like computer engineering and electronics and all of that was. So I just happened to be not at the top that I could pick computers. The best I could get was mechanical or chemical, so I just picked chemical because I wanted to be in a certain university in a certain city, and chemical was my only option.
I see. Okay. We have a question from Priyangi.
Go ahead, Priyanka.
Uh, yeah, so my question is like this wasn't exactly as you might have planned it, but then how did you like what exactly motivated you to even get into this? Like, to even study for such a highly competitive entrance exam and just get that kind of determination.
That's a great question. So I think it's also a lot about the options and the choice you have in life, Priyanka. Right? I grew up in India, New Delhi, and a few other cities. And in the era when I was growing up and I was like in high school, like you guys, there were really only a couple of options for most people, most students. One was get into engineering, or the second is to actually become a doctor, pursue MBBS. So I knew I didn't like biology that much. So, you know, I was always fascinated with physics. And so I studied physics, chemistry, and mathematics, and that's what is needed for you to, appear for engineering entrance examinations. I did that, and my father actually challenged me a little bit. He said, "Hey, based on how smart you need to be to get into these things and how much hard work is required, I really don't think you can do it. But this just for you to know, this is out there." And I said, "Okay, I need to now do it." And that was the motivation, that someone not believing in you, or even if it is just to challenge you, that was the motivation. And then you get into uh, the right network, be with the right people, right? So choose your friends very wisely, right? And actually, this is a little bit of segue, but in March or in May, early May, I actually attended Warren Buffett's annual general meeting, and one of the ladies from Poland asked him a question. She asked him about what is required to be successful investor, and what Warren replied was that in life, I can tell you the trajectory you will take in life based on people you follow, people you admire, and people you work with. Okay, so they say that you are the average of five people around you. So if you surround yourself with smart people, motivated people who want to do well in life, who want to achieve something, you will also follow that same path. And if you follow people who do all the wrong things, who are not focused, who are very short term, or whatever it is, if you don't hang around with the right folks, you will not get motivation to do things in life that you do, that you're worth doing, right? So pick your friends, pick who you follow, who you work with very, very carefully, was the advice that he gave. And so I think I happened to, when I was preparing for IITJ, I had the right folks, who I used to hang around with. They were all motivated to get into the IITs, and that helped me as well.
Okay, we have.
Yes, Manoj, go ahead.
Okay, so my question is, I want to pursue like a career in biotechnology. So I was wondering, like, is pursuing a career in biotechnology sufficient on its own for like a successful future? If it's not, like, how can we make it more rewarding, and what complementary fields or skills can we integrate with it?
That's a great question again. So Manat, first of all, you know, whatever I'll tell you, take it with a pinch of salt, because I'm not at a stage where you are right now to, evaluate different options. So I've not looked at all the different fields that closely. Okay. Biotechnology, I think so. One of my big, not big, but a starter bets in the stock market happens to be a biotech stock, which is a a leader in DNA sequencing instruments, right? And the reason why that is one of the positions that I'm tracking and I've made that bet is because I believe that in the future, right, biotechnology, pharma, research, medicine, all these things will boom, will do really well, right? Because biotech and pharma is actually the most innovative industry in the world, right? Um, they discover a molecule, they get a patent for 20 years, then they spend 10 years to figure out what that molecule can cure. They do tons of clinical trials, then come up with an indication where it can work, and then they have 10 years to make money, and then they go on to discovering other molecules, right? This industry has done phenomenal in the last many years, many decades, and it will continue to do that. One of the tailwinds I see for it is AI. With AI, it becomes easier to do more research, right? It becomes easier to analyze data generated from DNA sequencing and all of that. So it is going to get that tailwind. So biotechnology is definitely a field which cannot, you know, as humans, we are getting older, right? Our planet is getting older, population is getting older. We need cures to a lot of diseases. So that's another tailwind. I don't think biotechnology is going to go away. I think the best years for biotechnology is ahead, not in the back. Having said that, the second part of your question, what additional you can do beyond that? I think one thing I've realized is to be successful in corporate life, it's not just your IQ that matters. It's not just your knowledge that matters. So you can get a biotechnology engineering or whatever degree, master of science or whatever it is, or a PhD. That's the core domain skill that you will get in biotechnology. But I think you also need emotional intelligence to do well in life and to do well in corporate world, which basically means how you manage your emotions and how you manage emotions of your teams. Consider emotions as an aspect while making decisions. It will greatly impact how good of a leader you can become, and that will have an impact in your success in life. So if you like biotechnology, that's something you love doing, you should definitely pursue that. But I would say in addition to that, learn a little bit about emotional intelligence, learn uh, psychology that you can apply in business, in your work, right? The way human brain works, if we do not understand how we work, how we think, how we behave, how we make decisions, and how others around us do the same, we will not be able to influence and work with people around us and even get the best out of ourselves. And that's where psychology and emotional intelligence plays a big, big role. Even with AI and all, I think these soft skills are going to matter more and more, right? Because AI can do a lot of knowledge work, but AI cannot be emotionally intelligent, right? At least not right now. So I would say, you know, biotechnology, very promising, but these are some of the additional things you should focus on.
Excuse me, sir.
Go ahead, Ironic.
Sir, actually, I have a question related to careers in commerce with AI. So I've taken commerce in 11th with AI. So what are the future careers which can be taken into consideration?
Okay. So, commerce is a great field. I happen to be a chemical engineer. I happen to be working in technology, but I love commerce. I love understanding businesses. I love understanding, how businesses thrive. You know, uh, you know, understanding financial statements, understanding their balance sheets, their income statements, cash flows. how much money, how much capital they need to grow, all these things related to commerce economics, like whether it's microeconomics or macroeconomics, how it plays a role in the success, and how it can be a headwind or a tailwind to different industries and companies. So that is something I love. And you know I think commerce is all about this, right? So commerce is how humans work and make a living. It will never go away, right? It also gives you an advantage in all the things that we talked about. Being financially successful, financially independent, compounding money, understanding investments, understanding risks. All of that is part of commerce. And so long as humans are alive, commerce will happen, right? So again, a great field. You can definitely pursue a career in commerce, and I think AI will facilitate commerce because AI is so much about knowledge. And even to prepare this deck, I used AI. Right, it helped me do that along with all the other things I'm doing. So it just gives you all the learnings, all the knowledge in the world is now in your hands on your cell phone or your laptop. So, you can definitely leverage AI to create something. You can leverage AI to learn, be better. Again, a great field.
Yes, Garrick, I hope that answered your question. And
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
I was really curious to ask this. How did you transition from chemical engineering into like a product director role? That's like, I feel like very different. So I was kind of curious to ask that.
Now, again, a great question. So, you know, it's a lot of times what happens to you in life will depend on the choices you make and the decisions you take, whether it's about your career, whether it's about your financial situation. uh, you have to make choices at every crossroad of life. You will have several options, and you'll have to pick one. So early on in my career, I had a choice. I did chemical engineering. I realized in my senior year and junior year that, hey, while I'm doing chemical engineering, this is not something that excites me. Okay, so I wanted to go into the corporate world, work and make money. So, I didn't want to go into managing plants or designing heat exchangers or designing, refineries. So I picked data analytics because in the end, engineering, the skill that I learned during engineering, the ability to think logically, ability to break down problems and solving smaller problems to arrive at bigger solutions, those are still things that work in technology, in data and analytics and IT. So I picked that, and then from there on, my career, kept moving, and a few years back, to 2022, is when I moved into the product management role.
I see. That's really interesting. And any other questions, if anybody has? This was actually another question from Mannat, but she had to leave. So if you could answer a question, I can probably show it to her later.
Sure. So, what skills from your engineering background have you applied in your current role? In retrospect, do you feel that pursuing this degree was a worthwhile decision? So, as I said, the skills from my engineering background that I've applied everywhere in life is to be curious, first of all. So, even when I was preparing for engineering entrance examinations, as I said before, I loved physics. So I loved how things around me work, how gravity works, how mechanics work, and all those things. So I was very, very curious. So that curiosity was honed further in engineering. Ability to break down problems, think logically, ability to use mathematics, you know, to solve problems, Ability to not get phased or intimidated by any problem is another thing that I learned in engineering. So when I started doing what I'm doing right now, which I love, investing and identifying stocks, I have no background in commerce and accounting. But if I know I need to go and look at a balance sheet, I need to look at an income statement, it doesn't scare me because I know everything is logical, it's mathematics. If I put enough time, I'll be able to understand it. So I read about it and I learn it. And that is a skill that I learned in engineering, that no matter how big the problem, don't get intimidated by it. Break it down into smaller problems, solve those smaller problems, and you'll have big solutions with you. So, uh, last question, I think last part of your question, was it a worthwhile decision? I think, yeah, it was a worthwhile decision to do engineering. One, because that was a measure of success to some extent. So, it gives you that confidence. Second was the peer group and the friends that I made. You know, it was totally worth it because of that and all these skills that I talked about.
I see. That's really good to know. And because like it's two completely different things, but like how you still apply the knowledge from one to the other. So yep. If anybody else has the question, they can go ahead, or I can move on to another one. These are like the ones that we compiled from everybody's responses. Okay, I think I can go ahead with the question. So, also, we were wondering, like, what is agentic AI and how is it revolutionizing the pharma and biotech industry?
Very interesting question. So, this is like the holy grail of today, right? Everybody talks about agentic AI. You know, for the most part, people have different understanding of agentic AI. But think of agentic AI as you're using AI to create agents that help you achieve a goal, right? That goal can be as simple as, hey, I'm going to Florida on a Disney vacation. Can you help me plan my vacation? Right? I need a 3 day vacation. This is where I'm going. So the agent, you know, has access to all the knowledge of the world. Uh, and the agent can keep that goal in mind. You can define a goal for that agent, and they can go on to find information, to run scenarios, to solve that or to achieve that goal for you, and then come back to you with the options or the solution. That's what agentic AI is all about. And those agents can be, there's no limit to how many agents can be, right? Like I can create an agent which says, hey, I am going to make a presentation to FLG club about financial literacy. My, the topics of interest are 1, 2, and 3, or I give a topic and I say, I want to make the presentation lively. I want to have, some exercises. I want to have some stories. And the agent can come back and tell you the entire storyline. The agent can then, you can give it another goal that, okay, the storyline looks good, make these 2 changes, come up with a PowerPoint presentation. It'll come back with a PowerPoint presentation for you. So that's what agentic AI is, that you give it a goal and it autonomously goes and uses large language models to run scenarios, to figure out various ways to achieve that goal. So, and once it does that, it comes back to you with options. So that's what agentic AI is.
Okay. And relating to this, what are some exciting developments in AI-driven drug discovery or biotech that you're like currently working on?
Yeah. So I work on the commercial side of biotech and pharma, which basically means that we help the commercial organization. So pharma has different functions, right? There is drug discovery, there is clinical development, there is a medical side, and then once a drug is approved, it goes to the commercial function that has a sales force. They engage in marketing, they do contracts with payers and government for reimbursement, and they have financial objectives that they have to meet every year for that, for a brand or for a portfolio of brands. So we work, my products, and I develop products for the commercial function of pharma and biotech, which can be, hey, we have a certain forecast for a brand. How big of a sales force we need to meet that forecast? How should we deploy that sales force across the country to get the maximum out of our investments? Excuse me. So, I don't work so much on drug discovery and clinical side, but on the commercial side, these are some of the examples where we are leveraging AI.
I see. Okay. Are you excited about the new discoveries?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole space of AI is moving very, very fast. It's evolving very, very fast. So
Yeah.
it's very exciting.
We have Yashika who wants to ask a question.
Hi. So my question is, what exactly is biotechnology, and what all activities exactly happen in that?
So, see, Yashika, I think, again, I'll give you my perspective, but you should leverage AI to understand biotechnology. What are the different fields? What are the different things? Again, this is an area where you can use LLMs, get a lot more than what I can give you. But biotechnology is it's about, you know, understanding the foundational constituents of organisms, right? Whether it's cells, whether it's DNA, RNA, and understanding how that works and how it impacts the growth, the characteristics, and the longevity of that organism, right? So biotechnology can come, is applicable when you're doing drug discovery to understand how different cells in the human body work, how different hormones work, how DNA and genes are expressed into proteins, right? And how can you manage that or manipulate that to manage and cure diseases? That is one aspect of biotechnology. Biotechnology is also leveraged in agriculture. How can you improve the yield of, crops? How can you make your crops more resilient to, to organisms out there that can, destroy them, or to weather?